All right, there we go. All right, so now we're recording. Okay, so this week we'll be talking about the legislative branch. Will be our main focus for this class and also for Thursday. Okay. Also, something else to actually let me zoom in here. Something else to remember. So this Thursday will be a national holiday. Okay, so we will be celebrating Juneteenth. We will still have class on Thursday. Okay. However, this class on Thursday will be completely online. Okay. So usually we have the classes Tuesdays are online for everybody. And then on Thursdays, if you live in Logan, Utah, or around Logan in Cache Valley, you are able to go in person on Thursdays, right? So a few of you went in person last Thursday, right? But for this week, just this week only, on Thursday, uh, our class will be virtual only. Okay, so um, we will not have the option to go in person on Thursday. It will just be virtual. Okay, and if you can't make the class, it will all be recorded and uploaded to our Google Classroom. So that is always available to all of you in case you miss a class. All right. Okay. So now we'll go to this is the lesson from our last class from Thursday, in case you missed it, or in case you did not watch the recording either. All right, so just we'll do a little bit of review before we move on. So this is how we're going to do all the classes. Before we begin, we're always going to do a bit of a review of what we did the last class. Okay, so for Thursday, right, we're not going to cover everything right now, but we talked about the second part of our chapter one that involves the U.S. Constitution, specifically talking about the government, right, the branches of government and the powers, right, of each branch of government, the powers in the federal government, the powers in the state government, right? So these were the objectives from Thursday. I'll read these briefly. Let me see. Someone wants to join as well. Okay. So this is from Thursday. So these are the objectives. We had our vocabulary words as well, right? We had our branches of government that we talked about, three different branches or parts of government. And we went through all of these, right? All of these branches. We talked about the legislative branch that makes federal laws, the executive branch that enforces federal laws, and the judicial branch that reviews federal laws, or in some cases, state laws. Right? They review laws. Okay, and those are the three different branches of government. All right. Then we talked a little bit about the concept of separation of powers. So, not one branch does everything, right? A lot of people, I use this example on Thursday, a lot of people, when they take this class, they think that the president makes laws, the president enforces laws, and the president reviews laws. They think the president is the person that does everything in the government, right? But in reality, we have three different parts of our government or branches that do those jobs, right? And so that power is shared among the three branches, and that is called the separation of powers, right? Powers are not just within one branch, they are separated. They're separate or separated, right? And we talked a little bit about the powers of the federal government versus the powers of the state government, right? So the federal government does things like makes treaties with other countries. The federal government declares war. The federal government prints money. The federal government creates an army, right? So those are the jobs of the federal government. But the state government also has things that it is in charge of, right? So each state has its own government, and they also have three branches just like the federal government in Washington, D.C. So legislative, executive, and judicial. And the state powers would be to maintain a police, to maintain fire department, so police department, fire department, to maintain a Department of Education, right, to fund schools, to create the curriculum for schools, and also to maintain roads as well. So if you're ever driving on I-15 or I-80 or any interstate in the country or road in the country, that is the job of the state government to um, to take care of, right? So sometimes if you're driving on a road and you cross a state border, immediately the road conditions will change, right? This happens a lot of the times if you're on a road trip, you might notice this, that the material that the road is used out of or the signs, they look different. And that's because the roads are maintained by the state, right? Not by the federal government, all right? There's a way to change the Constitution, right? Change to the Constitution is called an amendment. There's 27 amendments. 38 of 50 states need to say yes to an amendment in order for it to be officially part of the Constitution. All right. The Bill of Rights we talked about, which are the first 10 amendments to the Constitution. We talked about how the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. We talked about how they approved the Constitution back in 1787 when it was written, and the years after in 1788. And then we had a review. So really quickly, we will do our review for Thursday, right? And if you missed the class, then this is just a refresher, and or this is just a way to make sure you didn't miss anything. If you were in attendance, if you attended last class, then this is just a review to make sure you don't forget anything moving forward. Okay, so for the questions from last class, does someone want to answer to name one branch or part of the government? What were one of the branches or parts of the government?
Legislative,
Oh, what was that? Did you say something?
legislative,
Yes. What are the other two? Do we remember?
executive,
Yep, executive. And what's the last one?
judicial.
Yeah, judicial. So those are the three branches of government, right? The three different parts. So who's in charge of the executive branch based on Thursday's class? Who would be in charge of the executive branch?
The president.
Yeah, the president. The president's in charge of the executive branch. And what does the president's cabinet do?
To advise the president.
Perfect. Advises the president, right? Advises the president. So they give the president advice based on whatever their specialty is, right? So the Secretary of Education would give the president advice on issues that have to do with schools or education, right? What is the highest court in the United States?
The Supreme Court,
Perfect. The Supreme Court. What stops one branch of government from becoming too powerful?
Separations of power.
Yep. Perfect. Separation of power. And another term that could be used as well would be checks and balances. That could be another term that you might see. But if you are asked this question in your interview, you could say separation of powers, and that would be correct. All right. But if you look in your textbook, they might mention checks and balances, but they basically mean the same thing. So who makes federal laws?
Federal government.
Oh, what was that?
The federal government.
Federal government is correct, but more specifically, who in the federal government? Say it again, Maria.
Congress.
Congress. Which is also called the legislative branch. So, right. So the legislative branch makes the federal laws. They make the laws, right? And Congress is a kind of a nickname, right? A different name for the legislative branch. Okay, so they're both the same thing. What does the judicial branch do?
Interprets the law.
Yeah, I believe you said yeah. So interprets the laws, right? Interprets laws, reviews laws, judges laws. That would be an easy one, right? Judicial sounds like judge. So judicial. You could also say judges laws. It's a way of remembering what they do. All right. And under our Constitution, some powers belong to the federal government. What is one power of the federal government?
Money.
Yeah, money. They have print money. There's also collect taxes and form a military. Those are all part or powers of the federal government. Under our Constitution, some powers belong to the states. What is one power of the states? Oh, could you repeat that, Maria?
Provide education.
I'll provide education, yeah. Education. Yeah, so maintain schools, education, same thing. Maintain police and fire departments, and also maintain the roads as well. All right, so those are all those are all powers that the states have. And then who is the governor of our state right now, of the state of Utah?
Spencer Cox.
So Spencer Cox is the governor of the state
Yeah.
of Utah. And what is the rule of law? What does that mean? Or actually, this one we will do later. Okay, so what is the supreme law of the land? We'll do that one.
The Constitution.
Yep, perfect. The U.S. Constitution is the supreme law of the land. Okay, so nothing goes above the Constitution. A state law will never win against the U.S. Constitution. A federal law cannot go against the U.S. Constitution, right? If a law is created that is against the Constitution, it will be an unconstitutional law. Okay? That's kind of complex, could be confusing to understand, right? But just know that the supreme law of the land, number one at the top, is the U.S. Constitution. No matter what, you have to follow the U.S. Constitution. Okay? All our government. What do we call the first 10 amendments to the Constitution?
The Bill of Rights.
Perfect. The Bill of Rights. So those are the first 10 amendments to the Constitution. Okay, and that was the end of it. All right, so that was our review of our last class. And so now we'll go on to what we will be talking about today, right, which will be about the legislative branch. All right, so let's pull up that one really quickly. Okay, so Congress and representation. So today we will be mainly focusing, obviously, on the legislative branch, but mainly we'll be focusing also on the House of Representatives. Okay, so we'll be talking about the House of Representatives. All right. So our objectives today will be to learn about the U.S. Congress. All right, learn a little bit more about it, go in depth. We will understand the House of Representatives. We'll learn new vocabulary. And then at the end, we will practice our USCIS civics questions. Okay? So for our vocabulary, we have a few words today. So legislative branch, right? This will be the most important thing to remember from today's lesson. So this is the part of the U.S. government that makes federal laws. It is also called Congress. Okay, so this building right here is where the legislative branch works. It's where they do their job. So where is this? What city is this building in? Does anyone know?
Washington, D.C.?
Yeah, perfect. Washington, D.C. Yep, Washington, D.C. is where is the capital of the United States, and that's where our legislative branch, or our federal government, I should say, does their job, or that's where they go to work, right? Oh, well, there's Congress. Okay, so federal laws, right? These are laws that apply to everyone in the United States. Okay, so we say that Congress makes federal laws. So when they make laws, they affect everybody in the entire country. All right, and so there's kind of a tier to this. There are different levels, right? And so there are federal laws. There are also state laws, which are below, and then there are local laws all the way at the bottom. Okay, and then above here, if we had an extra layer up here, there would be the U.S. Constitution, all right, because it is the highest law in the land, all right. Okay, so now the House of Representatives. Okay, so just like in the government, we have different parts of the government, right? Just like how we have the three branches of government, we also have two parts two parts of the Congress, or of the legislative branch, right? And so the first we'll be learning about today will be the House of Representatives, okay? So as it says here, this is one part of Congress. States with more people have more representatives here, okay? And we'll talk about that a little bit later, okay? But just know that this is one part of Congress, and the whole representatives and everything we'll talk about in a second, all right? Okay, so now we have the Senate, all right? This is the other part of Congress. And every state has two senators, every single state, okay? And these images right here, so this is the House chamber, what's known as the House chamber, which is inside of the U.S. Capitol building, right? It's inside of there. And then this is the Senate chamber, which is also inside this building, the U.S. Capitol. Okay. All right, so pretty simple. We only have these 1, 2, 3, 4 vocabulary words for today. So before we move on, does anyone have any questions about these vocabulary words so far? Anything that you might need clarified or explained? All right, nothing so far. Okay. So now it's simple. What is Congress? So Congress is part of the government, right? Congress makes federal laws. And there are two parts, which are the House of Representatives and the Senate. Okay, these are the very basic things that you must know about the legislative branch of our government, which is also called Congress. Okay? So now we'll talk about the House of Representatives. So if you had your textbook, and you don't need to use it, but you will see this in your textbook. So this image is from your textbook. So what do you notice about this image? What do you notice about the image? Anything important?
Our state?
Yeah, there are states, right? What about the states? What does it say underneath the name of the states?
Is it Wyoming and California?
Yeah, and what does it say underneath? Under Wyoming and under California.
The voting member?
Yeah. And so how many voting members does Wyoming have?
1.
Yeah. And California has how many?
52.
Yeah, exactly. So thinking about, what you know about, we live right next to Wyoming and California, right? So knowing these two states, kind of a little bit about them, why might Wyoming only have one member in the House and California have 52? Why would those numbers be different? And anybody can answer as well. So why would those two numbers be different? You can make any guess. You don't have to be correct.
Maybe because of higher population.
Yeah. Yeah. So based on these two, right? So California right now has 52 voting members in the House of Representatives. Wyoming only has one, right? And so that's exactly correct. The reason why California has much more than Wyoming is because of population, right? So if you've ever gone on a road trip to either of these states, if you've ever driven to any of these states, you would definitely be able to know that California has much more people than Wyoming, right? Wyoming, if you drive along Interstate 80 over to Nebraska, you will see maybe one or two small cities. Now, if you go south and you go on I-15 down to Southern California, I mean, it's just big cities everywhere. There's tons of cars, tons of people. There's no open land, right? Well, where in Wyoming, there's probably more horses than there are people, right? So this is the population of Wyoming, right? So right now they have 587,618 people in 2024, the last time they measured. Meanwhile, California has 39.43 million people, right, which is has the most people out of any other state, right? So California is the biggest state, the most, or not the biggest, but the most populated state in the country, and Wyoming is the least populated state. So here in Salt Lake City, I believe we have about 200,000 people. So we almost have as much here where I live in Salt Lake City than in the entire state of Wyoming, about half, right? And that shows in how many representatives each state has. Okay? So the amount of representatives a state has depends on their population, right? Depends on how many people live in that state. Okay? So in total, the House of Representatives has 435 voting members, all right? That's a number you're going to want to memorize. You want to try to remember that number, 435. All right, because that will be one of the questions on the interview that you might get. Okay, so once again, it is based on state population. Okay, so this number right here, 435, it never changes. Okay, it always stays the same. But every 10 years, we go and we count how many people there are in the country. Okay, it's called the census. And based on the census, based on how many people live in each state, right? Each state is given a certain amount of voting members. But this number right here, it doesn't change. Okay? It doesn't change. All right? Based on state population, basically means more people in the state, means the state has more representatives. Okay? Simple enough. So this is a video about the House chamber. Okay, kind of just giving a little bit of a tour of what it looks like when our representatives go to work in Washington, D.C.
When we look over the chamber today,
There we go. Oh, go back here.
when we look over the chamber today,
Doesn't want to work. Okay, we'll try this. All right, there we go. Put it down a little bit. Okay.
haven't changed.
Let's try to go back from the beginning. Weird. Does not want to load today. We'll pause. There we go. Dang, the video does not want to work.
When we look over the chamber today,
Okay, I guess we won't watch that one. So it's being a little bit annoying. Anyways, so we can continue on. Maybe we'll watch that one next week. Then, okay, so it was just going to give a tour a little bit about the House chamber. We will continue on. Okay. All right, so now we'll talk about how the representatives are chosen. All right, so this is also a lot of information that you will just need to memorize. Okay, so a lot of this will be asked on your interview, and you will just kind of have to remember it. All right, it's a lot of numbers to remember. So the first kind of thing was, let's go back. The first thing was that there are 435 voting members, right? And now talking about the amount of representatives chosen. So for the House of Representatives, they are elected every 2 years, okay? So something that confuses a lot of people is this question. So on your interview, they might ask for how many years is a representative chosen, or for how many years does a representative serve, right? And a lot of people think that it's 4 years because of the president, right? We all know the president serves every 4 years, right? But for the House of Representatives, it is every 2 years, okay? That's a very important thing to remember, all right? Also, if you want to be a representative, you must be at least 25 years old, okay? At least 25. Okay, for president, once again, a lot of people get this confused. A lot of people know that for president, you must be 35, but for the House of Representatives, it is only 25 years old. Okay? Also, you must be a U.S. citizen, and you must live in the state that you represent. Okay? Going back to here, must be a U.S. citizen. Okay, another thing that's interesting about being a representative that you can't do as the president is that as the president, right? If you're running for president, you must have been born in the United States. To be a representative, you don't have to be born in the United States. You just have to be a citizen of the United States. Okay, so if any of you, for example, want to run for office or the House of Representatives, when you become a citizen, you are allowed to do that, right? You can do that. It's just for president, you cannot run for president unless you were born in the United States, okay? And then obviously, must live in the state they represent. So you cannot be a representative for the state of California if you live in Utah, right? You cannot run for office to represent people in Los Angeles, let's say, if you live in Salt Lake City. Okay, you have to run for office and to represent where you live. All right. And so this part right here, this slide, as we can see, this is the words from the Constitution that tells us these rules. Okay, so it says over here, the House of Representatives, and this is from Article 1, Section 2 of the U.S. Constitution. It says the House of Representatives shall be composed of members chosen every second year, so every 2 years, by the people of the several states and the electors in each state, yada, yada, yada. None of that matters. No person shall be a representative who shall not have attained the age of 25 years and been 7 years a citizen of the United States, who shall not, when elected, be an inhabitant of that state in which he shall be chosen. All right. And also, you must be a citizen for at least 7 years in the United States, in case anyone wants to run for to become a member of the House of Representatives. Okay. Oh, okay. So now the Speaker of the House. So there is. Oh, let's go back. So there is a position in the House of Representatives that is kind of like the leader of the House of Representatives. Okay. And so the leader of the House of Representatives is called the Speaker of the House. And the Speaker of the House always is a member of the party that has the majority in the House of Representatives. Okay, so let me try to demonstrate this a little bit better. So let me show you guys a chart of this. So the House of Representatives, political makeup, we'll put that in. So if we go to the party breakdown, so there are 435 members, right? So if we go to the official website, you can see how many members belong to the Democratic Party, how many members belong to the Republican Party, and how many members belong to other, well, there are also vacancies, right? So a few people have died while in office, and they need to have elections, right? So right now, based on this, who has the majority, which political party has the majority in the House of Representatives? Based on this chart right here.
The Republicans.
Yeah, simple enough. So the Republicans have the majority in the House of Representatives. So the Speaker of the House is or belongs to which political party? Right now, at this point in time. So the leader of the House of Representatives, which political party would the leader of the House of Representatives, the Speaker of the House, belong to? Which one? So the Speaker of the House always is a member of the party that has the majority. So which political party does the Speaker of the House belong to?
Republicans.
Yeah. So the Republican Party, as of now, right? And that might change next year in 2026 when we have our midterm elections. Okay. So as of now, the Speaker of the House, his name is Mike Johnson. Okay. So once again, this is also important to remember for your interview, knowing the name of the Speaker of the House and of different members of Congress, right, who your representative is, which we'll get into. But it is important to remember who the Speaker of the House is. Okay, actually, I don't know why I didn't put his name here, which I will do right now, if it will let me. Let's see. So, an important thing to do when you before you go to your interview, right, is this is something that you would want to check. So, if you have your interview, I don't know why it's not. If you have your interview right now, then you would say Mike Johnson if they ask you who is the Speaker of the House. Let me make the font a little bit bigger. So this guy right here, his name is Mike Johnson. Okay, so he is the Speaker of the House of Representatives. But let's say you hold off on your interview and you do it maybe next year, right? Or in 2027, in 2 years. This could change, okay? And this does change sometimes. It even could change tomorrow. You never know if the Republicans decide to vote someone new in, okay? So this is a question that if you have your textbook with you, I would kind of highlight it or put a star next to it so that when you go for your interview, you make sure that the person that you know in your head, that you memorize, is correct. Because this could always change, and it does. So there have been people in the past, right? There was a time last year where we had 3 different speakers of the House in just a few months. And so a lot of people were very confused. And a lot of people got this question wrong because they didn't check who it was before they went. All right? Because they answered from what they had studied, but it had changed since then. Okay? So it's important to make sure, and if you have your textbook, to kind of make a note in your textbook to check this question, to make sure you have the correct name. Okay? But as of now, if you were to do your interview right now, the Speaker of the House, his name is Mike Johnson. Okay? Okay. I don't know if this video will work, but we will try our best. We'll see if this one works. So this is just showing, this is from June 12th, so not too long ago. This just shows what they do in the House of Representatives. Kind of give you guys a look at what it looks like, which I don't know if it'll work for us here. Let me see if we can pull it up on actual YouTube. Okay, we'll skip this slide. We'll go back. Look at the House sessions. We go not to the state. We go to Congress. We have these speeches, right? And you can kind of see one of the speeches. They make a lot of speeches when
Some internet providers claim they offer gigabit speeds, but here's the catch. Their upload speeds are often
of worship at schools.
Okay, so YouTube will not work for us today, but that's okay. So it will not load. But usually what they do when they go to work in the House of Representatives, they will make speeches. They will try to talk to their colleagues, to their members in the House, to tell them, to convince them to vote a certain way. A lot of them will vote on different laws, and they do a lot of debating, speeches, things like that. All right. So far, before we continue, does anyone have any questions so far about the House of Representatives specifically? About the number of representatives, how it's based on population, maybe about the Speaker of the House or what they do. Any questions so far about the House of Representatives? All right. So now with that, we will move on to the last section, which are the civics test questions, okay, that have to do with this specific class or this lesson. Okay, so once again, there's a question that we'll see a lot. So what is one branch or part of the government?
Congress,
Yeah, Congress or the legislative branch. What are the other two?
Executive,
Executive, and the last one,
judicial,
judicial. Perfect. So we have legislative branch, the judicial branch, and the executive branch are the three branches or parts of the government. Okay, once again, so who makes federal laws?
the president,
Not the president.
the legislative branch,
Yes, yep, the legislative branch, also called Congress, right? So when we talk about who makes the laws, right, we talked about the separation of powers. So the president does not do everything. The president does not make laws or enforce laws and enforce laws and judge laws, right? We have the separation of powers, which gives different powers to the different branches, all right? And so Congress and the legislative branch, it is their job to make the laws, right? The president only enforces the laws, makes sure that things are done the right way. That's what the president does, all right? So what are the two parts of the U.S. Congress?
the Senate, and the House of Representatives.
Perfect. Yep. So you have the House of Representatives and the Senate are the two parts of the U.S. Congress. Okay, and so the House of Representatives has how many voting members?
435,
Perfect. 435. All right. And this is in the entire country. There are 435 voting members in the House of Representatives. Okay, why do some states have more representatives than other states?
Because their population.
Yeah, states with more representatives have more, or that should be reversed. States with more people have more representatives. Yeah, but because of population. So states with more people have more representatives. Yeah. We could also say just population. That's, if you go to your interview, that's all you would need to say, population, right? Okay, and who is your representative? So does anyone actually know who their representative is? If we're just talking right now.
Mike Johnson.
It would not be Mike Johnson.
All representatives. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so your own representative in the legislative branch. So that's okay. So mine is Celeste Malloy, but let me show you guys because this depends on where you live. So my representative is different from your representative, right? Because we live in different areas of the state. So to find who your representative is, and once again, just like for the Speaker of the House, I would put a note or a star or something next to that question for when you go to your interview, because this will always change every 2 years, maybe. It could change every 2 years, but also because it depends on where you live, right? So you can go to this website, which is simple to find. You just put house.gov, and this is the official website of the United States House of Representatives in Washington, D.C. And to find your representative, so who is in Washington, D.C., that is representing you in your city, you just put in your zip code. So for me, mine is 84101 in Salt Lake City. Okay, so and you just press this button, look up, and then it gives me my representative. And so my representative is Celeste Malloy. Okay? And so you can keep doing this. I have other zip codes in here from past classes. So 84118 might be some of you guys, depending on where you live. Let's see what other zip codes are in here. 84321, I believe that's a Logan zip code. For Cache County, if I'm correct, it would be Blakemore, right? So it all depends on where you live. Okay, so when you go to your interview, you should put, before you go, make sure when you're studying, you go to this website and you make sure that it is up to date. And you put in your zip code to make sure that you know who your representative is, so you are prepared for that question in the interview. Okay. All right. So once again, who's your representative? And that depends on where you live. So you would have to look that up on the website to see where who your representative is based on your zip code. So mine would be Celeste Malloy, but this is where you could find it on house.gov. Okay. If you want to take a picture of that, I could also put it in our chat as well. So you just click it. All right, so that's the website I just put into the chat that you could use to find your representative in the House of Representatives. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so with that, that is all that I have for today. Just talking about the House of Representatives. I was trying to show you guys a video of the tour of the House chamber and of Congress or House of Representatives in action, but that didn't work for us. The computer's a little slow today. But if you have any questions about the House of Representatives or about how it works or anything before we leave, any questions? All right. So with that, I will see everybody on Thursday. And once again, we will not have in person on Thursday because of the holiday Juneteenth. So we will just be virtual. Okay?
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.